I'm Sarah Wilson and you're listening to the Roots and All podcast. I'm here to help you get growing. Join me as I explore everything plant related both indoors and out and provide the information you need to create your perfect green environment. Hi and welcome to this week's episode of the Roots and All podcast. This week I spoke to Esiah Levy, who is the founder of the SeedsShare project. The project was set up by Esiah to send out organic seed for just the cost of the postage to anywhere in the world. All his seeds are harvested from vegetables that are grown organically in his own garden and are heirloom varieties. His aim is to encourage long-term food security in areas where organic food production is at a minimum, so this is a really important project. I started by asking Esiah to explain what the project is all about in his own words.
So the SeedsShare project was started in 2016. Really, I started the SeedsShare project because I found that a lot of seeds for fruit and veg that I wanted to grow had the same colours, same shapes and same flavours. I wanted to find different colours of fruit and veg and also be able to use the seeds year after year. And I found by going online and actually, hunting for seeds from companies that are independent businesses of individuals who grow their own heirloom seeds, that I could take those seeds from, say, America, grow them in the UK, and start growing my own unusual fruit and veg. And I found that by doing that, I went from a yellow sweet corn to a multicolored sweet corn to a red sweet corn, from a butternut squash, I went to a bubbly squash, I went to a squash that was green, blue, grey, a squash that was, what you get in Sainsbury's was usually £8 to a squash that was over £15. I started really getting into growing unusual fruit and veg, but then I thought to myself, how many other people in the UK are having the same issue as me where they want to grow their own food, but they don't feel inspired because the seeds that they're being allowed to purchase from companies online and garden centres in the UK is of boring food. So I thought, let me just share these seeds with individuals that I've grown in my own garden, and all they have to do is pay postage to encourage one person to share with another and also encourage young people to start growing their own fruit and veg. So that's how it started, yeah.
So obviously you are a cook, I presume?
No, literally just a food grower. But I have, from an early age, I've been exposed to utilising fruit and veg in the kitchen and also in Caribbean cuisine. So, yeah, it's part of my blood. So a lot of what I grow is just going on what I've grown up to eat. So, sweet corn and callaloo in Caribbean cuisine, which is a type of spinach. Squash as well is used in a lot of soups.
You've got some brilliant pictures on your website, actually, I think, of all the different colours of things that you grow, and some of them are just incredible. What I was going to ask, I suppose, is sometimes I think people forget the taste of food because they're so keen to get seeds that are bred for size and almost uniformity and disease resistance that sometimes taste can go a little bit out of the window. Do you find that the heirloom seeds quite often are better tasting?
Of course, 100%. And also what you do find as well is that you never quite know if it's going to be the same flavour year after year, which makes it, exciting as well. So growing food then becomes an expression of art, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, by growing a particular sweet corn, you're not guaranteed that it's going to have the same shade of red, or it may have blue in with the red as well. So it's just literally like painting, a picture. And then you also find with that as well that the flavour will change. So, one year you may have a dry squash. Another year you'll have a squash that's, very loose in texture. But then you use it according to what you're given by Mother Nature. So each year it's different. So heirloom, I advocate to every gardener that I speak to or any individual that is interested in growing food, I say to them, it's best to go with open pollination and heirloom varieties, which have lasted generations. And, you never know, you may create your own particular sweet corn, tomato, or squash, or onion. You may create your own just through allowing the plants to be open pollinated by bees, or you can even do hand pollination as well.
How do you do that?
So, for example, with squash, I grow a number of varieties in my garden, for example, or also in a lot of the allotment plots that I've got in London. So what I do is, preferably in the morning, go down to my garden, check for the female flowers that I've opened, and then I use the same male flower from the same vine, pollinate the female flower, and then you can use an elastic band to close the female flower so the bees don't pollinate that particular flower. Mm-hmm. And then that way you know that that particular squash variety that you're growing, that, you know, if you want to say with the seed, it's going to be the same variety. And then if you do want to cross-pollinate and you do want to try and create a new variety, then you can allow the others to be pollinated through bees, through open pollination.
Oh, that's really interesting, because quite often people are taught to not allow things like squash to cross-pollinate because they're quite promiscuous and they will not come out true to type. But actually what you're saying is you can control it, but also it's really quite interesting to have things that don't come true to type, and you just need to adapt your cooking skills to cope, like you say, with what Mother Nature throws at you. So that just really flies in the face of what a lot of people are told they can and can't do with veg growing. So that is fascinating. When you say you pollinate the male and female flowers, do you literally mean you kind of squish them together and that's the pollination done?
Yeah, in effect, that's what you're doing. But you can also use human hair. You can also use a paintbrush. I myself have locks, so I use my lock, a tip of my lock, and I can use it to take pollen from a male flower and put it on the female flower. So, you know, it's quite creative in the ways that you can do hand pollination. You can do hand pollination with squash. You can do it with apples. You can do it with pears. You know, you can do it for a variety of fruit and veg. But like I said, what it guarantees, you know, 90% of the time is that if you either want to save seed for yourself, or if you want to just grow that particular variety of squash or onion or apple or pear, you just guarantee that when you're pollinating it, it's going to be true to type without using chemicals and without buying seed from a company where they call it F1 sterile hybrid. You know, it's just casting that all aside and just using natural tools and working with nature rather than against.
Can you just tell us briefly what are hybrid varieties, how they're different from the seeds that you're collecting?
Yeah, so hybrid variety seed basically is F1. What it basically does is that particular seed for that one season will give you a true to type squash, for example. So a crown prince, you're guaranteed for that one season, that seed will provide you a crown prince. However, after that one season, once you've harvested the odd 100 seeds that you get in, you know, an average squash, the next year, you're not guaranteed to have the same crown prince, which basically means you have to go back and buy the original seed. So it kind of keeps you a prisoner, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, so one year you got these beautiful uniform crown princes, and the second year you try to, you know, be sustainable, save your own seeds and grow the crown princes, and you find that they look completely different and the taste is just not like the crown prince at all. It's not a hybrid or anything like that. It's just literally where the plant is confused and it's trying to follow one particular parent and it can't. So then you have to go back to the shop and buy the same crown prince seeds. So that is the problem with F1 and hybrid seeds that, you know, a lot of the general public are buying from garden centres and also online.
So you're tied in if you want to keep getting the same thing year after year?
Basically, yeah, basically.
So obviously I'm assuming squash and tomatoes and pears and apples and that kind of thing that you mentioned are fairly easy to save the seed from, but are there any that are really difficult to do that with, and are there any that you might not bother because it's actually really difficult to grow them from seed?
I'll be honest, I never think to myself, you know, this particular seed is difficult, therefore I'm not growing it. But a good example would be Chilean guava, where the process to save the seed, the process to get the seed to germinate and look after the seedlings, if not one of the most difficult to do, in my opinion. But it doesn't mean that it's not part of the SeedsShare project, and it is part of the SeedsShare project, and it does give people a good challenge. And I'm happy to say that a lot of people have managed to grow Chilean guavas, maybe not in the first year, but in the second year as they get more confident with their food growing.
Yeah.
A lot of people have managed to grow Chilean guavas. So Chilean guava would be a good example of if you see that little fruit and it is tiny, less than half the size of the tip of your little finger.
Wow.
And then to get those seeds out and to ferment and get the flesh off the seeds, which I do with tomato seeds as well. So this, you just get in the seeds and put it in a cup of water and just allowing the flesh to ferment and fall away from the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then draining the seeds and then drying the seeds through a natural process, just leaving it on your windowsill on a plate. Because the seeds are so tiny, it's a case of, separating the seeds and just going through the process by hand. Does take some time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Have you got like a social media site where people kind of go on and share their pictures of their successes?
Yeah, of course. So I've got the SeedsShare website, and what people can do on the SeedsShare website is send me updates of their pictures, which we have on the website now,
mm-hmm.
where people can see individuals of what they're growing. Also have social media, Croydon Gardener, and Instagram and Twitter
mm-hmm.
as well. So if you just use hashtag SeedsShare with 2 S's,
mm-hmm.
then you can just provide an update of how your squash has grown, your corn, your onion, your kale, there's so many varieties, and that's already happening now. So if you go on Twitter or Instagram and just put SeedsShare Croydon Gardeners, you'll see just, the amazing colours that people have managed to do all over the world.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
I bet it gets quite competitive.
It does. This year especially, Giant Hubbard has been the most popular for SeedsShare members to grow, because this particular Giant Hubbard is an open pollinated heirloom variety. So a lot of individuals have got this Giant Hubbard. So you got some people that didn't expect it to get as big as it's got. And they're quite surprised. And they're trying to accommodate for its big size. And then you've got individuals that are hoping it was going to get so big, and they're just over the moon that they've managed to grow a squash as large as that.
Yeah. And
that particular seeds for that Giant Hubbard was from Giant Hubbard I harvested last year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fresh, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. I just love the thought of your seeds flying around the globe and just growing in all sorts of different locations. It must be brilliant to see. I was going to ask you, you get your compost. I was really interested in this because you get it from your local council, and they allow residents up to 3 free bags per day. Is that right?
Yeah, so basically part of my philosophy is to use 100% recyclable materials to grow my fruit and veg.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do, Croydon Council allows 3 bags of compost, but they don't stipulate what type of bags you can bring to the recycling centre. So I bring large IKEA bags, and you can fill them up to the top.
Yeah.
And it's completely free.
That's brilliant.
Completely free. So, I do encourage those that are listening that are living in, urban areas, cities like London, to go around to your recycling centres and, check if they do provide free compost. And if they don't, speak to your councillor, get them on the case, because to be honest with you, in my opinion, we shouldn't be buying compost from garden centres. It should be free, because a lot of what is collected in green waste from households, especially now where a lot of people pay for the service, is actually turned into compost.
Yeah.
So I would rather that compost is put back into communities for free instead of being packaged up, labelled up and sold in garden centres.
Yeah.
I think that's just a travesty.
It is.
It should be free.
I mean, where's the sense in taking it somewhere else and then selling it? It's got to go back to where it comes from, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if I can say as well, to exclude all of the fancy packaging that you have on compost in a lot of garden centres that say, this compost is better than this compost, better than this compost. When it comes down to it, compost is humus, and humus is a breakdown of organic matter.
Mm-hmm.
And if used correctly, the compost that you get free of charge from your local council, or what should be free of charge, is just as good as what's cost £5 to £10 to up to £15 from your local garden centre. That's my philosophy. I mean, I've always collected recyclable materials. I, collect coffee grounds, also collect spent hops. With the wave of independent breweries, it's worth people that are listening to this podcast to go and ask local breweries for their spent hops. I actually use spent hops as a mulch, a natural mulch, because I don't purchase membranes.
Mm-hmm.
I use cardboard and spent hops. And I actually haven't weeded my old garden that I lived previously. For the full 6 years I was there, I didn't weed it once.
Wow, that's amazing. like you say, there's so many of the little breweries popping up. It's a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah,